Hello, and welcome to another episode of Anchored Thoughts, the podcast where we navigate life's storms together, one conversation at a time. I'm your host, Dr. Toni, a board certified psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner, broadcasting from my floating office aboard our yacht as my husband and I travel America's Great Loop. It sounds glamorous until you realize I still lose emotional battles to unread emails, unpredictable Wi Fi, and a serious lack of caffeine at times. So trust me, we're all human here. Every week, we spend a few minutes untangling the thoughts that keep us stuck, exploring the science behind our minds, and sharing practical tools you can actually use in everyday life. My goal is simple: to make mental health feel less intimidating, more relatable, and maybe even bring a smile to your face along the way. So, wherever you are listening, unclench your jaw, drop your shoulders, take one slow, deep breath, and let's get anchored. Today, I'm bringing you episode 3 of Anchored Thoughts. Today, I want to challenge one word that I think gets thrown around far too often: lazy. Because more often than not, what we call laziness is actually exhaustion, overwhelmed, or burnt out. And those are very different things. You know the feeling, you have things to do, important things, but your brain feels like someone opened 47 browser tabs and one of them is playing music, but you can't figure out which one it is. I've had that happen to me. So eventually you stop doing things, not because you don't care, but because your nervous system is overloaded. Why burnout happens? Well, let me tell you why. Here's what many people don't realize: our brains weren't designed to run at full speed every hour of every day. When we're constantly juggling work, family, caregiving, loss, deadlines, relationships, and everyone else's expectations, our nervous system eventually shifts into protection mode. Instead of helping us do more, it starts conserving energy. It's not because you're weak, it's because your brain is trying to protect you. Burnout is sneaky. Burnout rarely announces itself. At first, it sounds like, I'm just tired. Then suddenly, small tasks feel impossible. Texts go unanswered. Even simple chores start feeling emotionally overwhelming. And somehow, answering one email feels like climbing Mount Everest. And here's the dangerous part: we live in a culture that treats rest like a reward instead of a requirement. But your body doesn't wait until vacation to need recovery. Rest isn't something you earn, it's something your mind and body need to keep functioning. So here's a myth I want you to think about. One of the biggest myths about productivity is that we have to feel motivated before we can take action. But in psychology, it tells us something different. Motivation often follows action, not the other way around. So, for example, you remember those times when a friend invited you to an event that you didn't feel like going to, but when you did, you felt alive. You felt the energy of the room and it kept you going. That's what I'm referring to. Waiting until you feel like it can keep you stuck. Sometimes the smallest action is what creates the motivation you've been waiting for. So here's a practical tip I encourage many of my clients to do. I call it the 10% rule. Instead of asking, can I finish this? Ask yourself, can I do just 10%? If cleaning the kitchen feels impossible, well, then wash one dish. If your inbox has 50 emails or 50,000, like some family members I know, well, then just answer one. If exercise feels overwhelming, well, then walk to the end of the street. Tiny actions will build momentum. But more importantly, you probably have heard me say this more than once: they rebuild the trust in yourself. Progress doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to begin. If you've been calling yourself lazy for weeks or even months, I'd encourage you to get curious instead of critical. Ask yourself, what's making this feel so hard? Sometimes the answer is burnout. Sometimes the answer is anxiety. Sometimes it's grief, depression. Sometimes you simply have been carrying too much for too long. You don't have to figure that out alone. The words you use, however, with yourself become the environment your mind lives in. If every day you tell yourself, I'm lazy, I'm failing, I'm not doing enough, eventually your brain starts believing those labels instead of recognizing that you're struggling. Speak to yourself the way you would speak to someone you love. The compassion you have creates the change. Shame rarely does. You know, living aboard this yacht has reminded me of something. Even boats aren't designed to run at full throttle every minute of every day. They need fuel, maintenance, they need time at a dock. People aren't any different. Rest isn't stopping. Rest is part of what allows us to keep moving forward. So here's today's anchored thought. Maybe you're not lazy. Maybe you've been carrying more than anyone realizes. Recovery isn't something you earn after you've done enough. It's part of how you become well enough to keep going. And from the yacht tonight, where I probably should be folding laundry instead of recording this podcast, I'm reminding the both of us, give yourself permission to pause. Give yourself permission to rest because your worth has never been measured by how exhausted you are. And that's today's anchored thought. Take a deep breath, drink some water, maybe step outside for a few minutes, and remember, healing isn't a race. You don't have to do everything today. So until next time, stay anchored, stay hopeful, and stay you. Thanks for joining.